The massive space station Concordia floated silently in the void between three dying stars. Inside its crystal halls, 12 different alien species sat around a glowing table that pulsed with soft blue light. The air hummed with tension as thick as the artificial atmosphere they all breathed. Ambassador Jiwoo adjusted her simple black uniform and looked around the circular chamber. She was the only human in a room full of creatures that barely tolerated her presence. Some had scales that shifted color with their emotions. Others looked like living crystals that sang when they moved. A few were so alien that her mind struggled to understand their basic shape. For months, these same beings had complained about humanity. Today felt different. Today felt final. The Veltharian delegate, a creature made of what looked like singing glass, chimed loudly. Its voice sounded like wind through broken windows. The humans ignore our laws, it said. They spread their technology to species we have deemed unready. They act without permission. Jiwoo stayed quiet. She had learned that speaking too soon in these meetings only made things worse. The council hated interruptions almost as much as they hated human independence. The Korvani representative slammed a six-finger hand on the table. Its purple skin darkened to almost black with anger. Last month, the humans gave advanced medical equipment to the Theta Colony. Those people were supposed to remain at their current development level for another 1,000 years. Children were dying from a simple plague. Jiwoo said calmly, "We had the cure. We shared it. Without asking us." The Korvani's voice rose to a screech that hurt human ears. "You think you can decide who lives and dies across the galaxy?" Jiwoo stood up slowly. Around the table, alien eyes turned toward her. Some glowed with their own light. Others were so dark they seemed to absorb the room's brightness. "We think we can help when help is needed. That used to be what civilized people did." The Nexus Collective's representative spoke next. It was actually dozens of small creatures working together, their shared consciousness making them speak as one voice. "Human unpredictability threatens galactic stability. Your species advances too quickly. You change too much too fast." "You mean we improve too much too fast?" Jiwoo replied. "Same thing," hissed the Draconi delegate, a reptilian creature whose ancestors had ruled space when humans still lived in caves. "Progress without control is chaos." The council's leader, an ancient being called Morthak, raised one of its many tentacles for silence. When it spoke, its voice echoed from speakers placed around the room, because its natural communication was beyond most species' ability to understand. "The human question has been debated long enough. We offer humanity one final choice." Jiwoo felt her heart rate increase, but kept her face blank. "I'm listening. Submit to complete council oversight. All human colonies will accept our governors. All human technology will be approved by us before use. All human expansion will stop until we decide otherwise. Your species will take observer status only in this council. You may watch, but no longer vote." The room fell silent, except for the soft hum of life support systems. Jiwoo looked around the table, at faces both familiar and alien. These beings had worked with humans for over 50 years. They had accepted human help, used human inventions, and benefited from human discoveries. Now they wanted to put humanity in a cage. "And if we refuse?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "Economic sanctions, trade embargoes, military blockades of all human systems." Morthak's synthesized voice announced the threats like items on a shopping list. "You'll be alone in the galaxy." Jiwoo reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out a small crystal data storage device. She had hoped she would not need to use it. The United Earth government had given her two options for this meeting. She had really wanted to use the first one, which involved compromise and negotiation. The second option was now in her hand. "The United Earth government prepared me for this possibility," she said, placing the crystal on the glowing table. It made a soft click as it touched the surface. "I am authorized to deliver the following message." Every alien in the room leaned forward. Some of their translation devices buzzed with extra activity as they prepared to record her words. "Humanity withdraws from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. We will honor existing trade agreements for 30 Earth days to allow for peaceful transition. After that time, humanity will make its own decisions about its future among the stars." The silence that followed was so complete that Ji-woo could hear her own heartbeat. Then the room exploded into a chaos of alien voices. The Veiltharians chimed like broken bells. The Corvani shouted in their harsh language. The Nexus Collective buzzed like an angry hive. Ji-woo picked up her small briefcase and walked toward the exit. Behind her, Morthak's artificial voice cut through the noise. "You are making a terrible mistake. Human, your species cannot survive alone." She paused at the door and looked back one final time. "Maybe not," she said, "but we'll find out." The door sealed behind her with a soft hiss, leaving 12 alien species to realize they might have just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. 3 weeks had passed since Ji-woo walked out of the council chamber. The alien delegates thought the humans would come crawling back within days, begging to rejoin. They were wrong. Dr. Hyun-soo packed the last of his research files into a metal container. Around him, the Andromedian Medical Center buzzed with confused activity. Alien doctors and nurses watched him seal away 15 years of work with expressions they could not hide. "You cannot leave now," Dr. Velnari pleaded. The tall, blue-skinned Andromedian had worked beside Hyun-soo for over a decade. "The plague research is not complete. We still need 3 more years to finish the vaccination program." Hyun-soo looked up from his packing. His kind eyes showed real sadness. "I'm sorry, old friend, but I have my orders. All human civilian contractors are returning home." "But why?" Velnari's voice cracked with emotion. "We are not part of the Council's political games. We are doctors. We save lives." "The Council made their choice," Hyun-soo said quietly. "Now we must make ours." 2 systems away, Chief Engineer So-young was having a similar conversation at the Centauri shipyards. The massive space docks stretched for kilometers in every direction, filled with half-built starships that would never be completed without her expertise. "The warp core designs are too complex," the Rigelian supervisor said, his 4 arms gesturing frantically at the holographic blueprints floating between them. "My people studied them for months. We understand perhaps 30% of the engineering involved." So-young powered down her workstation for the last time. "The files are all yours. I've left detailed notes wherever possible." "Notes are not enough." The supervisor's voice rose to almost a shout. "These ships were designed by human minds thinking in human ways. We need human engineers to build them." "Then you should have thought of that before you kicked us out," So-young replied, slinging her personal toolkit over her shoulder. Across the galaxy, the same scene played out on 1,000 different worlds. Human teachers left their schools. Human doctors abandoned their hospitals. Human technicians walked away from the machines only they truly understood. The Nexus Collective's trade representative, a writhing mass of interconnected creatures, ran the numbers over and over. Each time the calculations showed the same impossible result. The creatures shared their horror through their mental link until every member of their species felt the growing panic. "How did we miss this?" they asked themselves in their shared consciousness. "How did we not see how dependent we had become?" The quantum computers that ran council bureaucracy had been designed by a human team led by Dr. Park Min-ho 20 years ago. The universal translation systems that let different species communicate were the work of a human graduate student named Lee Eun-ji, who wrote them as her doctoral thesis. The medical scanners in every hospital from the core worlds to the outer rim all carried a mark of human innovation. Even the food production systems on a dozen worlds relied on human agricultural techniques. The water purification plants used human-developed filtration methods. The power grids that kept entire civilizations running were built on human engineering principles. On the council station itself, technician Yoon Suk-jin was packing his tools when Ambassador Veltar found him. The Veltharian's crystalline form was singing a low, mournful tune. "Please reconsider," Veltar chimed. "The station systems are experiencing multiple failures. You are the only one who understands the quantum stabilization matrix." Suk-jin sealed his toolbox and looked up at the crystal being. "My replacement arrives tomorrow. The council hired a team of Corvani engineers. They studied your work for 6 months and still cannot replicate it. That's not my problem anymore. Veltar's song grew sadder. I voted against the ultimatum. I tried to warn them. I know you did, Sook Jean said softly. That's why I'm telling you this. The quantum matrix isn't the only human system on this station. The artificial gravity, the life support, the computer networks, they're all interconnected in ways the Council never bothered to learn. When they start failing, and they will, don't try to fix them piecemeal. You'll only make things worse. On distant trading stations, human cargo pilots were shutting down their operations. Captain Kim Jae-min had run supplies to the dangerous vegan nebula for 8 years. No other species could navigate the shifting gravitational anomalies that made his route possible, but also profitable. The trade route will collapse without human pilots, his Altarian business partner warned. Thousands of worlds depend on those supplies. The Council should have thought of that, Jim Min replied, sealing his ship's cargo hold for the last time. Back on the Council station, emergency meetings ran day and night. The economic reports grew worse by the hour. Rare mineral prices had increased by 400%. 3 major corporations had declared bankruptcy. The prestigious Council Medical Academy was closing entire departments. Ambassador Morthak's tentacles writhed with agitation as it read the latest reports. How long until humans return? It asked its advisors. Intelligence suggests they are not planning to return, came the reply. All indications point to a permanent withdrawal. Impossible, Morthak declared. No species can survive in isolation. They need us more than we need them. But in the depths of the station's archives, a junior researcher named Clix was discovering the truth. Every major technological advance of the past century traced back to human innovation. The Council hadn't been leading galactic civilization. They had been following it, and now the leaders were gone. 2 months after the humans left, something strange happened in the Kepler system. The busy trade routes that once carried ships to and from humanity's oldest colony suddenly went quiet. Not just quiet, completely silent. Captain Zethmak had been flying cargo runs to Kepler for 15 years. His ship approached the system's edge and found nothing but empty space where the usual traffic control signals should have been. His communication officer, a nervous Andromedian named Victor, tried every frequency they knew. Nothing, Captain, Victor reported, his blue skin pale with worry. No response from Kepler Station. No automated beacons. No emergency signals. It's like the whole system just stopped talking. Zethmak ordered his ship closer. What they found made no sense. Long-range sensors showed massive energy readings coming from deep in the system. The signatures were unlike anything in their databases. Power levels that should have been impossible for any known technology. Should we investigate? Victor asked. No. Zethmak decided after staring at the readings for several minutes. We turn around. Now. Word of Kepler's silence spread quickly through Council space. Other human colonies began going dark one by one. New Geneva stopped answering communications. Port Armstrong's trade beacon went offline. Within weeks, every human settlement beyond Earth's solar system had vanished behind a wall of silence. The economic chaos that followed was immediate and brutal. The Rigel Corporation, which had built its fortune on human-manufactured components, laid off half its workforce in a single day. CEO Vorthlon stood before his board of directors, his scaled hands trembling as he read the financial reports. We have 6 months of inventory left, he announced. After that, we cannot build a single starship without human components. Our competitors are in the same situation. Board member Clax T raised a worried tentacle. What about finding alternatives? We tried, Vorthlon replied. The Corvani factories cannot replicate human manufacturing precision. The Veltharian workshops lack the proper materials. Even the Nexus Collective's automated systems cannot match human production quality. On the Council Medical Academy station, Dean Morven faced an even worse crisis. 3 entire departments had closed when their human professors left. The remaining faculty tried to continue the research, but they quickly discovered a terrible truth. The medical procedures are too complex, Dr. Yadera explained to the emergency faculty meeting. Dr. Hyun-Soo's plague treatment requires 17 different synthetic compounds. We can identify them, but we cannot create them. The chemical processes were never fully documented. What about the students he trained? Asked Professor Dreckmann. They learned to follow his procedures, but they never learned to innovate. Without humans showing them new techniques, medical progress has stopped completely. The worst reports came from the frontier worlds. Colonies that depended on human-designed infrastructure began sending desperate messages to the Council. On Theta Prime, the water purification system started failing. The human technicians who once maintained it were gone, and no one else understood how the quantum filtration worked. Governor Halfrich sent increasingly panicked communications to the Council. The system is breaking down in ways we cannot predict. His latest message explained. Our engineers studied the human designs for months, but every time we try to repair one component, 3 others fail. It's like the entire system was designed as one massive, interconnected puzzle. Similar problems appeared across dozens of worlds. The artificial gravity generators on mining station Zeta began producing dangerous fluctuations. The fusion reactors on agricultural world 7 developed mysterious instabilities. The orbital defense platforms protecting Trade Hub Omega started firing at random targets. Junior researcher Click's work day and night in the Council archives tried to understand the scope of the disaster. What she discovered made her sick with worry. Her report to the Council leadership was brief but devastating. Human technology forms the foundation of our civilization, she wrote. Every major system we depend on, communications, transportation, medicine, manufacturing, defense, relies on human innovation. We did not just lose Council members when they left. We lost our technological backbone. The first rebellion started on the outer rim world of Vextar. The planetary governor had always been loyal to the Council, but when the human-designed shields protecting the planet from solar radiation began failing, his people demanded action. Fix the shields or we join the humans, the rebel leader announced during a violent confrontation at the governor's palace. We will not die because of Council pride. Similar uprisings began on 17 other worlds. The Council's military tried to respond, but their own ships were experiencing mysterious malfunctions. Admiral Korvac watched in horror as his flagship's navigation system crashed the 5th time in 2 days. The human programmers built hidden dependencies into everything. His chief engineer reported, every system connects to every other system in ways we never understood. When one fails, it causes cascading problems we cannot predict. Meanwhile, the Altarian Federation quietly sent diplomatic messages to Earth through old communication channels. Ambassador Yethmaran had always respected human ingenuity and was beginning to suspect the Council had made a catastrophic mistake. The response came back within hours, but it was not what he hoped to hear. The Altarian people have our friendship and respect. The message read. However, the Terran Republic no longer accepts diplomatic communications that pass through Council space. Any future contact must be made through direct channels, without Council involvement. The message was signed by someone called the Terran Republic. The humans were no longer calling themselves by their old Earth government name. They had become something new, something the Council was beginning to fear they would never understand. 6 months had passed since the humans' walk away, and the galaxy was falling apart. The Council chambers that once echoed with proud speeches now filled with desperate pleas for help. Emergency sessions ran around the clock as crisis reports flooded in from every corner of known space. Ambassador Veltar stood before a holographic display showing the latest disaster. His crystalline form had lost its usual bright glow and now looked dull and cracked with stress. The Outer Rim colonies are 3 days away from complete revolt, he announced to the nearly empty chamber. 17 worlds have declared independence. They say they would rather join the humans than die waiting for our help. Morthak's tentacles writhed in agitation. The Council leader had not left the station in weeks, constantly dealing with one emergency after another. What is the status of our reconnaissance missions into human space? That is complicated, Veltar replied, his voice chiming with uncertainty. The hologram shifted to show the reports from Council spy ships. Captain Drexanael of the stealth vessel Silent Observer had been the first to return with impossible news. His scaled hands shook as he delivered his report to the council leadership. The Sol system is unrecognizable, Drexanael said. Earth is surrounded by orbital structures the size of moons. The asteroid belt has been completely reorganized into some kind of massive industrial complex. Energy readings are off our measurement scales. Describe what you saw, Morthak demanded. Sphere-like structures around entire star systems. Not just around planets, around the stars themselves. Whatever they are building, it operates on a scale we have never imagined. Our sensors could not even identify what materials they are using. The most disturbing report came from Commander Yithlek, whose ship had attempted to get closer to the human colonies. We tried to approach the Kepler system, she explained, her 4 eyes blinking rapidly with remembered fear. Something scanned our ship from a distance of 12 light hours away. 12 hours. Our own sensors can barely reach 1 light hour with full power. Did they contact you? Veltar asked. No, they just watched. We could feel their sensors tracking us, learning everything about our ship, our weapons, our crew. We retreated immediately. The Council's desperation reached its peak when the Helix Nebula Research Station sent out an emergency distress signal. Dr. Keth Moran, the station's chief scientist, appeared on the communication screen with terror in her eyes. The quantum containment field is destabilizing, she reported. We have perhaps 6 hours before complete containment failure. If that happens, the artificial black hole we have been studying will destroy the station and everyone on it. Morthak's voice carried through the speakers with barely controlled panic. Deploy our best engineering teams immediately. We already tried, Dr. Keth Moran replied. The containment system was designed by Dr. Park Ji-sung 15 years ago. Our current engineers understand maybe 20% of how it works. Every time they attempt repairs, the instability gets worse. The silence in the council chamber was deafening. The Helix Nebula Station represented the pinnacle of galactic scientific achievement. It housed research projects that had taken centuries to develop. Losing it would set back scientific progress by thousands of years. How long until the humans' communication blackout period ends? Asked Ambassador Klextor the Draconi. They never impose a communication blackout. Veltar replied quietly. They simply stop responding to us. Then we must try, Morthak decided. Send a priority diplomatic message to Earth. Tell them about the Helix Station. Appeal to their scientific curiosity, if not their mercy. The response came back within 3 hours, faster than anyone had expected. It was not from any government office or military command. The message simply read, Dr. Park Ji-sung will arrive at Helix Station in 14 hours. Prepare full technical specifications for immediate review. No ship appeared on any of the station sensors. No warp signatures were detected. Dr. Park simply materialized in the station's main engineering bay exactly 14 hours later, accompanied by 2 human technicians wearing uniforms no one recognized. Dr. Keth Moran stared at the humans in amazement. How did you get here so fast? Earth is 6 days away at maximum warp. Dr. Park smiled politely, but did not answer question. We have 8 minutes before containment failure becomes irreversible, he said, walking directly to the main control panel. Please clear the area. What happened next defied everything the alien scientists thought they knew about physics. Dr. Park's hands moved across controls that had not responded properly in weeks. Systems that had been failing for months suddenly stabilized. The artificial black hole, which had been growing dangerously unstable, settled into perfect equilibrium. How is this possible? Dr. Keth Moran whispered. The quantum field never stopped working correctly, Dr. Park explained patiently. You were trying to control it with techniques designed for normal matter. Black holes require a completely different approach. Within 2 hours, the Helix Station was operating better than it had in years. But when the alien scientists turned to thank their rescuers, the humans were gone. No ships departed. No transporter signatures were detected. They had simply vanished. Similar rescues began happening across Council space. The Corvani homeworld's defense grid was mysteriously repaired overnight. The failing infrastructure on dozens of frontier worlds suddenly started working again. But no one ever saw the human repair teams arrive or leave. Ambassador Veltar stood alone in his quarters, staring out at the stars. His people's home system was visible in the distance, its defense platforms now functioning properly thanks to human intervention. He was beginning to understand a terrible truth. The humans had not just survived their isolation, they had transcended it. And the Council was no longer dealing with the same species that had walked out of their chambers 6 months ago. The Council's diplomatic ship Reconciliation approached the edge of human space with trembling crew and desperate hearts. Ambassador Veltar stood on the bridge, watching sensor displays that showed impossible readings. The Sol system no longer looked anything like the star charts in their databases. "Are we certain we are in the right location?" asked Captain Yevmora, his voice barely a whisper. "The star position matches," replied the navigation officer, "but everything else is wrong." Earth itself was barely visible behind a network of enormous structures that orbited the planet like metallic moons. The asteroid belt had been transformed into a geometric pattern of mining platforms and manufacturing stations that stretched across millions of kilometers. Energy signatures pulsed through space in patterns that made no sense to Council technology. "Incoming transmission," the communications officer announced. "They are requesting permission to escort us to their flagship." 3 ships appeared around the Reconciliation without triggering any alarms. They had simply materialized from empty space, like ghosts becoming solid. The Council crew stared in amazement at vessels that looked more like flowing works of art than military craft. "Follow the designated course," came a calm voice over the communication system. "Welcome to Terran space." The flagship Indomitable was unlike anything in Council records. It stretched for kilometers in every direction, its hull seeming to shift and flow like liquid metal. Docking bays opened in its side that had not been there moments before, as if the ship was reshaping itself to accommodate their arrival. Admiral Taehyun met them in a reception bay that defied physics. The ceiling appeared to be open to space, showing a perfect view of the stars, yet the atmosphere remained perfectly stable. Holographic displays floated in the air without any visible projectors. The floor beneath their feet felt solid but looked transparent, revealing complex machinery operating in the depths below. "Welcome aboard," Admiral Taehyun said with a slight bow. He looked exactly like the humans the Council remembered, but there was something different in his eyes, a depth of knowledge that seemed almost ancient. Ambassador Veltar struggled to find words. We came to discuss the crisis in Council space, the systems you help repair, the technologies that are failing without human support." "We know," Taehyun replied. "We have been monitoring the situation." "Then you understand our desperation," Veltar said, his crystalline form chiming with hope. "Perhaps we can find a way to restore the old partnership." Taehyun gestured toward a viewing wall that showed the bustling activity of human space. Ships moved between star systems without using any recognizable form of faster-than-light travel. Entire planets were being constructed from raw materials in ways that seemed to ignore the basic laws of engineering. "Look around you," Taehyun said gently. "Do you see a species that needs the old partnership?" Veltar watched through the transparent wall as human ships departed for distant galaxies. Not just distant star systems, but completely different galaxies millions of light years away. "How?" he whispered. "When you force us to leave, you also force us to grow," Taehyun explained. "Without Council restrictions, without the need to explain our every innovation to committees that feared change, we were free to reach our full potential." The Admiral touched a wall panel, and the room filled with holographic displays showing human colonies across dozens of galaxies. Civilizations that had never heard of the Council were working alongside human scientists, sharing knowledge and building impossible projects together. "We did not leave to punish you," Taehyun continued. "We left because staying would have kept us small. The Council saw our rapid development as dangerous unpredictability. We saw it as a natural human drive to grow, explore, and improve. But you helped us," Veltar said, confusion clear in his voice. "You saved the Helix Station. You repaired our defense grids. Why help the people who exiled you?" "Because people were dying," Taehyun replied simply. "We help because that is what humans do. But we help on our terms now, not yours." Veltar felt a crushing weight of realization. You are not coming back. No, Taehyun confirmed. The age of the Council's dominance is over, but that does not mean the age of cooperation must end. The Admiral led them to another viewing area that showed something extraordinary. Ships from dozens of non-Council species were arriving at human space stations. The Altarian Federation had already established permanent trade missions. 3 independent systems had formally requested to join the new Terran Republic. We offer individual partnerships, Taehyun explained. Any species that chooses progress over fear, exploration over control, is welcome to work with us. But we no longer negotiate with committees that view innovation as a threat. What about our worlds? Our people? Veltar asked desperately. They are free to choose their own path. If the Veltharian people wish to establish direct relations with the Terran Republic, they may do so. But they must do it as Veltharians, not as council representatives. As the reconciliation prepared to depart, Veltar stood in the observation deck watching human ships disappear into hyperspace streams that bent reality itself. The technology gap had become so vast that he could barely comprehend what he was seeing. Will you remember us? He asked quietly. Admiral Taehyun placed a gentle hand on the alien's crystalline shoulder. We remember everyone who helped us become who we are, even those who helped by forcing us to leave. The journey back to Council space seemed to take forever. When they arrived, Veltar found the great chamber nearly empty. Most species had already begun making their own decisions about the future. The Council, as a governing body, was dissolving. Some worlds chose isolation. Others reached out to the humans. A few tried to build new alliances among themselves. But everyone understood the same truth. The galaxy had changed forever. Humanity had not just survived their exile, they had used it to become something magnificent, and they were never coming back.